Welcome to creating a character rig using GIMP and Anime Studio Pro 8. This is Frank Soodle, and I'll guide you through some of the basics of how to put all this stuff together. So this is a project I'm working on now, just getting some characters ready for City of Rott, Otherworld, and this is one of the female characters. So I wanted to have different features for the character, so like her hair could bounce when she's moving and so on. So what you want to do is first draw your picture in GIMP or Photoshop, and you want to isolate it. And the way to do that, of course, is through isolating the part outside of the lines, usually with the lasso tool, and then you just erase that and then make it its own layer. You want to save it as a PNG file because that will interact really well with Anime Studio Pro 8, which you could find for retail at a very low price, since it's an older version and it's 2015 January 29th as I record this. So here, anyway, you're seeing a bunch of different parts here of the character and the pieces, and how you want to separate each piece and try to get as close to the piece shape as possible, so you don't have a lot of extra space when you import it into Anime Studio Pro 8. So I imported this main torso, and then I'm going to start importing some other pieces, but right now I'm just going over the screen, and the camera is the rectangle, the blue rectangle, and then what I'll do is import the next piece, which will be the back leg. What's awesome about this program is it'll take a bitmap image, and it could transform it in ways I didn't think were possible using animation program from the past, which really didn't have a lot of flexibility to what, of course, Anime Studio can do today with advanced programming and technology advances and so on. So the order of these pieces is the key, because if I didn't switch the order here, that back arm would be right in front and it wouldn't make any sense. So we go back into import image, and then we pick up our next piece, and they keep appearing in the work window, and then you just set them up as you go along, usually with hair and other parts associated with, let's say you have the face and you have eyes on the face. You'd want to put the eyes with the face when you're assembling everything, rather than keeping everything separate. The reason I'm keeping everything separate here is so when you put the bones in there, they don't blend together. And by keeping them separate, you distribute the weight individually for each limb. So rather than build the character right away and then try to put the bones in your built character, you want to keep the pieces separate at first, after you know they'll all fit the way you want them to through some early tests, which I didn't show here. But then it's going to make things so much easier with Anime Studio, because the weight distribution for what I'll show you later won't merge into the other parts. So you won't end up with moving the leg and then the other parts get warped, like the torso and the upper arm, because that's what would happen if I had all these pieces together right now after I begin the bone placement process. So here I'm just aligning the hair. And this is not the full version of it, since there's back hair that will flop left and right, and with the hair I added small bone placement so you could control it with the flapping of the hair versus using just a layer, which the layer won't have that kind of flexibility. You could just rotate a layer, you can't actually articulate it with individual points like you could in the skeleton structure. So next we want to place a bone, and so we go into that little box up there on the left and select bone, and then you can rename it. Then you want to select all your pieces and dump them into the bone skeleton. So then that button up there allows you to add pieces to your character, and you can start off with the torso. That's the best place. See how I reselected it? If you don't do that when you select your next piece, in other words, I picked the upper torso there, the bone, and that's going to connect automatically to that upper torso. See? That's going to go right there. That's critical. If you don't do that, you'll end up moving the leg and the arm over. So then you just continue down from the last point is where it's going to connect. That's the key. So then I click the neck, and then I'll build the face bone. That'll be connected to the neck. Then I want to click the torso again, and then I'll start with the leg and create the leg bone. And you just first drag and drop, and you let go each time you want to stop the bone placement. You could adjust all this later as you need, and of course the tutorials within this program are excellent. They really helped a lot. All my questions were answered, so I was really happy about that. So now this is the weight. This is the weighting I was talking about earlier. And the weighting of it we don't really know yet because we didn't bend the limbs. When you start bending limbs and you see deformation and warping, that's when you could adjust the weight to get it exactly the way you want. The more weight that is in the limb, the more influence it's going to have on the other parts surrounding it. So now we could assemble everything with that assemble tool. It's like a little arrow pointing to the right underneath the bone. So that gives you a good idea of the character, and then we'd want to test out the limbs with the limb button. This lets you flex the limbs freely, and see we're on frame 0, so nothing is permanent here. We could just test everything out and see. This is just early stuff, so the original version's already complete. This is just a sample version, just to give you an idea of how things affect one another. See how you rotate that and it doesn't hold together. That's when you come back in and say, okay, I got to increase by pulling to the right the amount of weight that this upper torso holds over the other parts. This way it'll rotate together. And there are limitations, as you'll see, to how much you can do. Stretching and rotating. So once you reach a certain point, you'll start to lose the grip on it and it'll start to warp. And that's when you know you've reached your limit with the bitmap ability. You could use the vector graphics if you want. The bitmap means it's pixels. The vector means it's, of course, high resolution no matter what zoom level you have. So no matter how far you zoom in, you're still high resolution. With bitmap images, it eventually gets pixelated if you zoom too close. Most times with most programs. So see that bend? That is just a basic idea of how powerful this tool is to allow a bitmap image to warp like that and still have a nice sharpness to it. So that's about pretty decent bend right there. You gotta accept kind of like a in-between point, unless you piece it all together separate and want to spend time on other methods of doing it. But this is a pretty easy way to put it all together, and you want to have it all under one bone on that placement on the right side, that chart on the right, because if you don't, I tried it a different way and all the pieces weren't animating together, so it was a total disaster in terms of trying to keep the character compact. I had like 3 different folders, and I was thinking, okay, it'll be on a hierarchy and we could just get everything working together, but it didn't work that way, so I had to resort to a single skeleton and then put everything within that skeleton, and that limited what I originally intended, but it actually turned out for the best, because you get these different points of bending that you could have gotten in the other version I had, but this is a lot smoother, a lot easier to work with, and a lot more intuitive. And that's one thing about this Anime Studio. I worked in other programs before, but this is probably one of the easiest programs to learn. It literally took me about 1 week to get the hang of the whole program, and that was working on it maybe 3 hours a night when I got home. So anyway, here's the character, and see how the hand was going behind the leg there, so we had to shift the order within that list, and you could do that anytime you want. A very flexible program you have to work with here. So if you want to do cell animation or something like that, you could get that look, or of course you could get a high detail look, which I'm going for with City Rott Otherworld, and you could get the zombies looking super detailed that you couldn't do in something like vector images. So that's why I chose to import the bitmap image, because I only want to get so close to my characters. I don't like super close-ups, because then you lose a sense of location and where you are in the world if your whole movie's filled with close-ups of the face. I mean, sure, it looks stylized, but it kind of gets boring after a while. So it's always good to have a variety of camera shots, in my opinion. You could have close-ups, but not too many, like some of these modern movies overdo it. Thankfully, it's starting to balance out these days with a nice variety of distant shots, so you can see the characters' arms and legs and torso. So anyway, we could adjust these bends as we go through the animation process, but it's probably best to do all that before you start animating, although sometimes you only find out as you go along, depending on the positioning. So here we're just doing a really basic quick walk cycle, and these can all be saved, as I'll show you later on, with actions. although I won't go through the how to create the action. There's a nice tutorial within the program itself to teach you how to do that. But I'll show you all the actions I created so far for this lady. And she's one of the protectors of this one character who's like a leader of his people, and she's up there protecting him, and she'll have some fighting skills and so on. So anyway, I think we covered most of it here, and we just go through each step. And with a walk cycle, it's tricky at first until you start getting warmed up with it. Here I'm just testing some different walks. So at this point you don't want to worry about the weight of the character. Just get the legs going where you want them to, and the arms. And you could have 48 seconds, which is 48 frames, which is 2 seconds, or actually within that range, 30 frames a second. So once you get this all done, then you could see at this point I put the keyframe outside the 48, and then if you want a transition back to the first frame, then you keyframe within the 48, because it's a little tricky to explain, but that'll prevent stagnation, so the character won't stop at the end because it's a duplicate of the first frame. So rather than create a duplicate at the very end of the cycle, that's why you put the duplicate outside the cycle and then keyframe within the last frame, and that'll be slightly different from the first frame, so when it cycles back it looks like a smooth flow. It flows through it. So that's a nice little tip for walk cycles. If you're wondering why, if you're having trouble with the cycle, why it's stopping when you don't want it to stop every time it loops back to the beginning. In other words, the character looks like they're walking, and then all of a sudden they freeze, and then they walk again, and they freeze. And this technique prevents it. So as we continue here, we could make the bones invisible, although that's hard to work with that way, but that's generally the idea there. And I'll import the complete character now in just a few moments here, and then we'll go over some of those actions. Actions are another word for poses. So you could create a whole bunch of animated poses. That will save you time later on. So with this you could create a sense of gravity, and that will give the character a more lifelike appearance, as though she has weight. And that's what's happening here. And then with this, you could just copy and paste it right here and just continue, because it's a more subtle animation. But that's the general idea. You could place bones in any limb, and that will allow more flexibility with what you're trying to do with the character, with the walk cycle. This is mainly a tutorial for animators or artists looking to create an animation or so on. Usually I would save all this for maybe a making of or something like that. So here's the final imported character I created, and I'll admit this is more of a cell shaded style, even though I have some smooth shading going on compared to the zombies themselves, which are highly detailed. But because she's not rotting away here, you're not going to have tons of detail on her skin. It's just going to be pretty basic. So this is when you render, those little pieces all assemble, and then it starts to render each frame. So here are the actions, and that's where you find them, under the window. And then you click on actions, and each time you want to create a new action, you give it a name, and then you'll see this yellow bar, and you could add the different cycles in there. These are just general ideas. This is not full speed. This is just slowed down a little because it's in the program. It's not as fast, so it doesn't look as smooth. And what I would do with all these actions is blend them all together. They're just looping back without any connection, so they're a little, of course, not so smooth. But you could see how flexible the character is, and what's amazing is it was all bitmap images that in the original City of Rott I could only dream of bending the character's arms like this. I had to work with Image Ready 5.5 from Photoshop, and that program, every time you wanted to bend do a rotation with the arms and legs, you had to duplicate the leg and then rotate it, and then use that separate layer and shut off the other layer that you just used to show any sense of rotation. Because if you rotated a single layer, that rotation is permanent. Then you're stuck with that rotation, and then you just lost the rotation that you had before, and it was a nightmare. So that's why I ended up with such a choppy look to City of Rott 1. This is going to be some of the best animation I've done outside of City of Rott 2, which was pretty basic. But thanks for watching.